King Jaehaerys I is often regarded as the greatest monarch in the Targaryen Dynasty, mainly because of his great ideas and long reign, which was mostly peaceful. However, most fans don't actually know a lot about him. So who is King Jaehaerys I and what did he do? This is the life and death of the old King Jaehaerys I. Jaehaerys was born in 34 AC to Prince Aenys Targaryen and Lady Alyssa Velaryon. He was his father's third son and fourth child. When King Aenys I married Jaehaerys' two elder siblings, Rhaena and Aegon, in 41 AC, followers of the Faith of the Seven started an uprising, and attempted to murder the royal family. Instead, Jaehaerys fled King's Landing with his parents and siblings to Dragonstone. A year later, King Aenys collapsed after hearing that Aegon and Rhaena were besieged at Crickhall, and died 3 days later. Following his father's cremation on Dragonstone, Jaehaerys, his sister Alysanne, and his mother Alyssa fled to Driftmark, her father's seat. Meanwhile, the Dowager Queen Visenya Targaryen, the wife of the late Aegon the Conqueror, flew to Pentos to retrieve her son Maegor from exile, and he claimed the Iron Throne, ignoring the claim of Jaehaerys' older brother Aegon. By 44 AC, Jaehaerys, Alysanne, and Alyssa were hostages on Dragonstone of the Dowager Queen. However, when she died of natural causes, they escaped, and in retaliation, Maegor tortured Jaehaerys' other older brother, Viserys, to death. This left Jaehaerys as the eldest living son of Aenys I, as his eldest brother Aegon died in a battle against Maegor a year prior. Following this, Jaehaerys started to build a faction against King Maegor, including 5 of the great houses of Westeros. In 48 AC, Maegor mysteriously died, and so Jaehaerys ascended the Iron Throne with his mother Alyssa Velaryon as Queen Regent, as Jaehaerys was only 14, and Lord Rhaegar Baratheon as Hand of the King. Jaehaerys pardoned the lords and knights who served Maegor and restored their lands back to them, requiring a son or daughter as hostage or a payment of a fine in return. He also offered execution or taking the Black to Maegor's Kingsguard. All but one joined the Night's Watch, Sir Harold Longward, but he was killed during a trial by combat. Afterwards, his mother Alyssa and Hand Rhaegar Baratheon could not decide a bride for Jaehaerys, but instead agreed to a match for Princess Alysanne, Jaehaerys' sister, to marry Sir Oren Baratheon. The two Targaryen siblings flew together to Dragonstone, where Jaehaerys and Alysanne married in secret, but they didn't consummate the marriage, as Jaehaerys thought Alysanne was too young. They both remained on Dragonstone until Jaehaerys had come of age, and kept their marriage a secret, fearing that another uprising of the faith would occur. Meanwhile, his mother and Hand attempted to undo the marriage, which they failed to do. Eventually, word of their marriage got out, and Lord Rhaegar was forced to accept it. Instead, though, he tried crowning Maegor's daughter as queen, to which he failed, and was removed as Hand of the King. Jaehaerys returned to King's Landing when he turned 16, reconciled with his mother, and set to work on the small council, confirming and reappointing some of the members. He also replaced men who had lesser duties and emptied the dungeons, and later pardoned Lord Rhaegar Baratheon of his treasons. In 51 AC, a year after Jaehaerys' return to King's Landing, Alysanne left Dragonstone to join her king, and they were wed in a public ceremony before the Iron Throne, with the marriage being consummated this time. To ensure that another faith militant uprising wouldn't occur, Jaehaerys sent out 7 speakers to preach the new doctrine of exceptionism, which essentially reasoned as to why incestuous marriage for the Targaryens didn't go against the faith of the Seven, as the blood of old Valyria was superior and carried different cultures. Alysanne gave birth to Jaehaerys' firstborn son, Aegon, in 52 AC, but he died 3 days later. The next year, Jaehaerys went on a royal progress to the Riverlands, in which Alysanne was meant to join him, but she was pregnant with another child, Princess Daenerys. Jaehaerys had wanted another son, but was happy he finally had an heir of his own. Upon hearing that their pregnant mother was on her deathbed, Jaehaerys and Alysanne rushed to Storm's End to be with her, and stayed there until her death. Tragedy struck when later, several ladies were murdered on Dragonstone via poison by Andro Farman, one of which was Jaehaerys' cousin, Lyanna Velaryon, to which Jaehaerys' Hand of the King at the time, Daemon Velaryon, resigned to be with his family. Lord Miles Smallwood was then appointed as a hand, and plans began for a tourney to be held at King's Landing, but their progress was halted when Princess Aeria Targaryen had gone missing with Balerion the Black Dread. Ravens were sent to try and find her, but to no avail. In 55 AC, whilst Jaehaerys was on a royal progress through the Westerlands, Alysanne gave birth to Aemon Targaryen, Jaehaerys' new heir. A year later, Aeria returned to King's Landing with Balerion, but she died from a disease from Valyria, and so Jaehaerys banned all travel to and from the ruins of Valyria. In 57 AC, Jaehaerys became a father again when Alysanne gave birth to Prince Baelon. In 58 AC, Jaehaerys and Alysanne planned a progress to the north to greet with Lord Alaric Stark, with Alysanne arriving first and Jaehaerys arriving half a year later, due to political negotiations between Pentos and Tyrosh. The result of the visit meant the Night's Watch were given 25 more leagues of land and the abolishment of the lord's right to the first night, which meant lords could no longer bed a bride before their husband on their wedding night. In 59 AC, a harsh winter struck Westeros, which resulted in a famine, followed by a plague known as the Shivers. King Jaehaerys lost half of his small council, 2 of his Kingsguard, and his 6-year-old daughter, Princess Daenerys. Through his grief, though, Jaehaerys had some joy with the birth of his 5th child, Princess Alyssa Targaryen. 60 AC to 70 AC was a peaceful time for Westeros politically and for the royal family, with Jaehaerys and Alysanne having 8 more children, meaning 13 in total. However, only 9 lived to adulthood. 9 adult children meant too many claimants to the throne, though, and it would later cause issues. In 92 AC, Prince Aemon, Jaehaerys' heir, died suddenly from a crossbow bolt to the neck whilst fighting Myrish pirates on Tarth, to which Jaehaerys named Aemon's brother, Baelon, as the new heir to the throne, passing over Aemon's only child, Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the same one we see in House of the Dragon. Although Baelon was loved, many were furious, including Queen Alysanne, that Rhaenys had been passed over because of her sex. In 99 AC, tragedy arrived when one of Jaehaerys and Alysanne's daughters, Princess Gale, died by drowning herself in the Blackwater Rush. Alysanne, grieving for her most beloved daughter, couldn't stand King's Landing anymore and died less than half a year later. Baelon also died before his father did, of a burst appendix. Fearing a civil war between Aemon and Baelon's firstborn children, Rhaenys and Viserys, a great council was called to settle the matter of succession. The Great Council of 101 sorted through 14 claimants to the Iron Throne, but eventually focused down to only 2. Rhaenys' son Laenor, and the grandson of Aemon Targaryen, and Viserys, the son of Baelon. In the final vote, Viserys won by a factor of 20 to 1, and so Jaehaerys named his grandson as his heir and Prince of Dragonstone. Since the deaths of his wife Alysanne and his son Baelon, Jaehaerys was a shell of the man he had once been. He had not only outlived his beloved sister wife, but essentially all of his children. Of the 9 who reached adulthood, only 2 remained. He had also outlived many of his trusted friends and advisor. All he had left were his 4 living grandchildren: Aemon's daughter Rhaenys, Baelon's sons Viserys and Daemon, and Daella's daughter Aemma Arryn, who married Viserys. And so, in 103 AC, at the age of 69, Jaehaerys died in his bed as Lady Alicent Hightower read to him. He had ruled for 55 years and is still the longest reigning monarch on the Iron Throne. Viserys ascended the throne as his heir, and 10 years later is where House of the Dragon begins. Be sure to comment your thoughts below, and bye bye now.